The rifle scope feels cold against my eye, but my hands are steady. They always are. 18 successful eliminations in 4 years, and tonight makes 19. Through the crosshairs, I watch her move through the penthouse windows. Lila Chin, though that's not the name in my dossier. The agency calls her Target 77 Alpha. I call her Dead Woman Walking. She's supposed to be a reclusive tech genius. A hermit who never leaves her fortress of servers and security cameras. But watching her now, graceful in silk pajamas as she waters orchids on her balcony, she looks more like a dancer than a dangerous criminal. The intelligence reports said she was paranoid, unstable. They didn't mention how she pauses at each flower, whispering to them like secrets. My earpiece crackles. Raven, do you have visual? Affirmative. My voice is flat, professional. It has to be. Remember, this isn't just termination. We need her encryption keys first. Get close. Seduce her if you have to. Whatever it takes. I lower the rifle. Through her windows, I can see bookshelves that stretch from floor to ceiling, paintings that weren't in any of her financial records, a violin case gathering dust. This woman they want me to destroy has a life. Has beauty around her that she chose, created, curated. But I have my orders. The next morning, I stand at her front gate wearing a charcoal suit and my best smile. The cover identity is perfect, Sophia Rivers, art curator for a private collector interested in digital security for high-value pieces. Lila needs money. Her accounts have been frozen by the same government that now wants her dead. It's almost too easy. When the gate buzzes open, I step into her world. The compound is sleek and modern, all glass and steel rising from manicured gardens. But there are personal touches everywhere, wind chimes that sing in languages I don't recognize, sculptures that shift and move in the light, pathways that curve instead of cutting straight lines. This isn't the fortress of a paranoid recluse. It's a sanctuary. She opens the door herself, and my breath catches. The surveillance photos didn't capture the way she moves, like she's dancing even when she's standing still. Her dark hair falls in waves past her shoulders, and when she looks at me, her eyes are the color of storms at sea, gray with flecks of green and gold. Ms. Rivers? Her voice is warm but cautious. She extends a hand, and when our skin touches, something electric passes between us. I wasn't expecting you to be so young. I supply, because that's what they always say. Beautiful. The word slips out before she can stop it, and I watch pink bloom across her cheeks. She recovers quickly, stepping back to let me inside. I mean, professional. You look very professional. Professional. Right. That's what I am. But as she leads me through rooms filled with impossible technology and impossible beauty, I find myself forgetting why I'm here. She shows me holographic displays that respond to gestures, quantum computers that hum like singing bowls, and artwork that changes based on who's looking at it. This is incredible, I breathe, and for once, I'm not performing. How do you do it? Magic, she says with a smile that transforms her entire face. Or math. Sometimes they're the same thing. We're standing close now, close enough that I can smell her perfume, something light and floral with an edge of spice. Close enough that I can see the tiny scar above her left eyebrow, the way her lips part slightly when she's thinking. Close enough to kiss her, if I wanted to. If I were here for the right reasons. Tell me about your security needs, she says, stepping back just enough to break the spell. Right. The mission. I launch into my rehearsed story about protecting priceless artwork from digital thieves, about needing encryption so advanced that even governments couldn't crack it. With each word, I watch her face change, become more guarded, more careful. Governments, she repeats, and something cold enters her voice. They're not as trustworthy as they pretend to be. There's pain there, old and deep. I file it away with all the other intelligence I'm gathering, but something about her expression makes me want to comfort her instead of exploit her weakness. No, I agree quietly. They're not. She studies my face for a long moment, as if trying to read something written there in invisible ink. You sound like you know from experience. I do. More than she could ever imagine. But I just nod and say, doesn't everyone, these days? If you're drawn in already, stick around. And while you're here, hit subscribe, it means more than you know. The intelligence reports said she was paranoid, unstable. They didn't mention how she pauses at each flower, whispering to them like secrets. My earpiece crackles. Raven, do you have visual? Affirmative. My voice is flat, professional. It has to be. Remember, this isn't just termination. We need her encryption keys first. Get close. Seduce her if you have to. Whatever it takes. I lower the rifle. Through her windows, I can see bookshelves that stretch from floor to ceiling, paintings that weren't in any of her financial records, a violin case gathering dust. This woman they want me to destroy has a life. Has beauty around her that she chose, created, curated. But I have my orders. The next morning, I stand at her front gate wearing a charcoal suit and my best smile. The cover identity is perfect, Sophia Rivers, art curator for a private collector interested in digital security for high-value pieces. Lila needs money, her accounts have been frozen by the same government that now wants her dead. It's almost too easy. When the gate buzzes open, I step into her world. The compound is sleek and modern, all glass and steel rising from manicured gardens. But there are personal touches everywhere, wind chimes that sing in languages I don't recognize, sculptures that shift and move in the light, pathways that curve instead of cutting straight lines. This isn't the fortress of a paranoid recluse. It's a sanctuary. She opens the door herself, and my breath catches. The surveillance photos didn't capture the way she moves, like she's dancing even when she's standing still. Her dark hair falls in waves past her shoulders, and when she looks at me, her eyes are the color of storms at sea, gray with flecks of green and gold. Ms. Rivers? Her voice is warm but cautious. She extends a hand, and when our skin touches, something electric passes between us. I wasn't expecting you to be so young. I supply, because that's what they always say. Beautiful. The word slips out before she can stop it, and I watch pink bloom across her cheeks. She recovers quickly, stepping back to let me inside. I mean, professional. You look very professional. Professional. Right. That's what I am. But as she leads me through rooms filled with impossible technology and impossible beauty, I find myself forgetting why I'm here. She shows me holographic displays that respond to gestures, quantum computers that hum like singing bowls, and artwork that changes based on who's looking at it. This is incredible, I breathe, and for once, I'm not performing. How do you do it? Magic, she says with a smile that transforms her entire face. Or math. Sometimes they're the same thing. We're standing close now, close enough that I can smell her perfume, something light and floral with an edge of spice. close enough that I can see the tiny scar above her left eyebrow, the way her lips part slightly when she's thinking. Close enough to kiss her, if I wanted to. If I were here for the right reasons. Tell me about your security needs, she says, stepping back just enough to break the spell. Right. The mission. I launch into my rehearsed story about protecting priceless artwork from digital thieves, about needing encryption so advanced that even governments couldn't crack it. With each word, I watch her face change, become more guarded, more careful. Governments, she repeats, and something cold enters her voice. They're not as trustworthy as they pretend to be. There's pain there, old and deep. I file it away with all the other intelligence I'm gathering, but something about her expression makes me want to comfort her instead of exploit her weakness. No, I agree quietly. They're not. She studies my face for a long moment, as if trying to read something written there in invisible ink. You sound like you know from experience. I do. More than she could ever imagine. But I just nod and say, doesn't everyone, these days? 3 days later, I'm back at her gate. This time, she's expecting me. She's changed since our first meeting, still beautiful, but there's a tension in her shoulders that wasn't there before. She's been researching me, I realize. Trying to verify my story. The cover identity will hold, the agency's too good for anything less. But her caution tells me she's smarter than they gave her credit for. Sophia, she says as she opens the door, and the way she says my fake name makes my chest tight. Come in. I have something to show you. She leads me to a room I haven't seen before, circular with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the city. In the center sits a single chair facing a curved wall of monitors. This is where I work, she says simply. Where I create things that are supposed to make the world safer. The screens come alive at her touch, filling with code that flows like water, like poetry written in mathematics. I've seen advanced systems before, the agency has some of the best, but this is something else entirely. This is art. It's beautiful, I whisper, and I mean it. Beauty can be dangerous, she replies, her fingers dancing across invisible keyboards. The most beautiful things usually are. She's looking at me when she says it, and I wonder if she knows. If somehow, despite all my training, all my careful construction of Sophia Rivers, she can see through to the truth underneath. Are you dangerous, Lila? The question comes out before I can stop it, too personal, too real. A professional would never ask something so direct, so loaded. She pauses, her hands stilling on the controls. That depends on who's asking. I am. No, she says slowly, turning to face me fully. Sophia Rivers, art curator, is asking. But I don't think she's the one who wants to know. My heart rate spikes, but I keep my expression calm. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? She takes a step closer, and I can see flecks of gold in her gray eyes. You ask questions that have nothing to do with protecting artwork. You notice things that most people wouldn't. The way you move, the way you watch, it's like you're always ready for something to go wrong. She's made me. Somehow, this brilliant woman who was supposed to be an easy target has seen through a cover identity that took months to construct. But instead of running, instead of calling security or reaching for a weapon, she just looks at me with something that might be disappointment. Who are you really? She asks quietly. I could lie. Should lie. The mission depends on it. But looking into her eyes, seeing the way she's trying not to hope for honesty, I find myself caught between what I was trained to do and what every instinct is screaming at me to do instead. Someone who wishes she could be Sophia Rivers, I say finally. It's not the truth, but it's not entirely a lie either. And the way her face softens tells me it's enough, for now. We all wear masks, she says, reaching out to touch my cheek with fingers that smell like jasmine and machine oil. The question is what we do when someone asks us to take them off. I should pull away. Should remember that this woman is my target, that getting emotionally involved will compromise the mission. Should remember that in 3 weeks, she'll be dead and I'll be on to the next assignment. Instead, I lean into her touch. What if what's underneath is worse than the mask? I ask. Then we decide if it's worth it anyway. The next 2 weeks pass like a fever dream. I tell myself I'm playing the long game, building trust before moving in for the kill. I tell myself that every evening spent at her compound, every meal shared on her garden terrace, every late-night conversation about art and technology and the weight of secrets, is just part of the mission. I tell myself a lot of things. None of them are true. The truth is that Lila has become an addiction. The way she lights up when explaining some new breakthrough in quantum encryption. The way she unconsciously hums while she works, melodies that seem to come from somewhere deep inside her. The way she looks at me when she thinks I'm not paying attention, like she's trying to solve the most complex equation of her life. The truth is that I've started to forget why I came here. Tonight, we're sitting on her balcony watching the sun set over the city. She has a glass of wine, I have whiskey, neat. The alcohol helps quiet the voice in my head that keeps reminding me about my orders, about the rifle hidden in my hotel room, about the clock that's counting down to her scheduled termination. Tell me something real, she says suddenly. I freeze, the glass halfway to my lips. What do you mean? Something true about yourself. Not Sophia Rivers, art curator. You. The smart thing would be to deflect, to turn the question back on her. The safe thing would be to feed her some carefully constructed piece of my cover identity. But she's looking at me with those storm-colored eyes, and I'm tired of lying to her. Tired of lying to myself. I haven't felt safe in 4 years, I say quietly. She doesn't push for details, doesn't ask what happened 4 years ago that changed everything. She just reaches across the small table between us and takes my hand. I haven't felt safe in 6, she admits. Not until recently. The implication hangs in the air between us, dangerous and beautiful and completely impossible. I should let go of her hand. Should make some excuse and leave before this gets any more complicated than it already is. Instead, I turn my palm up and lace our fingers together. Lila, I start, but she shakes her head. Don't. Whatever you're about to say, don't. Not tonight. So we sit in silence as the sky darkens from gold to purple to deep indigo. The city lights begin to twinkle below us, and somewhere in the distance, music drifts from an open window. Her thumb traces patterns on the back of my hand, and I memorize the feeling because I know it won't last. It can't last. When she finally speaks, her voice is so soft I almost miss it. I know you're not who you say you are. My blood turns to ice. Lila. And I know you're here for a reason that has nothing to do with protecting artwork. She looks at me then, and there's no anger in her expression. Just sadness, and something that might be understanding. The question is whether you're here to save me or destroy me. The honest answer is both. Neither. I don't know anymore. What makes you think I'm not exactly who I say I am? I ask instead. She laughs, but there's no humor in it. Because I used to work for the same people you do. The world tilts sideways. This wasn't in any of the intelligence reports. Lila Chin, former government contractor turned rogue, yes. But former agent? Former operative? That's impossible, I breathe. Is it? You think you're the first one they've sent? The first honey trap they've tried? She stands, begins pacing the length of the balcony. There was Casey 3 months ago, pretending to be a venture capitalist. Before that, Marius, supposedly a journalist. Even poor Sarah, who claimed to be a lost tourist but couldn't hide the fact that she knew 17 ways to kill someone with a paperclip. My mouth goes dry. What happened to them? I let them go, she says simply. With their cover stories intact and their pride mostly undamaged. They reported back that I was too well protected, too paranoid, too dangerous to approach. The agency believed them because it was easier than admitting their operations had failed. She stops pacing, turns to face me directly. But you're different. How? Because you're not just pretending to care about me. You actually do. The truth of it hits me like a physical blow. She's right. Somewhere between that first handshake and this moment, somewhere between professional interest and personal fascination, I've fallen for her. I've fallen for my target. That doesn't change anything, I say, but even as the words leave my mouth, I know they're a lie. Doesn't it? She moves closer, until she's standing between my knees, her hands coming to rest on my shoulders. When was the last time someone looked at you and saw something worth saving instead of something that needed to be used? The question cuts deeper than any interrogation technique I've ever encountered. Because she's right about that too. In my world, people are assets or threats, useful or expendable. No one has ever looked at me the way she's looking at me now, like I'm something precious that needs to be protected. This is insane, I whisper, but I don't pull away when her hands slide up to cut my face. The best things usually are. When she kisses me, it's nothing like the calculated seductions I've performed for other missions. It's soft and tentative and real, tasting of wine and hope and all the things I thought I'd forgotten how to want. I kiss her back, and for the first time in 4 years, I forget to be afraid. That night, I don't go back to my hotel. We move inside when the temperature drops, settling on the couch in her living room with hot tea and a weighted blanket that smells like her perfume. She curls against my side like she belongs there, and maybe she does. Maybe this is what people mean when they talk about finding home in another person. Tell me about the real you, she murmurs against my shoulder. So I do. Not everything, I can't tell her about the kills, about the blood on my hands that no amount of soap will ever wash clean. But I tell her about growing up in foster care, about learning that the only person you can count on is yourself. I tell her about being recruited at 17 by people who promised me a family, a purpose, a place where my particular skills would be valued. I tell her about realizing, too late, that I just traded one kind of abandonment for another. They found me when I was 19, she says when I finish. Fresh out of MIT, full of ideas about using technology to make the world better. They promised me resources, funding, the chance to work on projects that could actually change things. What happened? Her laugh is bitter. I believed them. For 3 years, I built systems that I thought were protecting people. Advanced surveillance to catch terrorists. Predictive algorithms to prevent crimes. Encryption so secure that only the good guys could break it. She pauses, and I feel her breathing change. Then I found out what they were really using it for. I don't need to ask. I've seen enough classified reports to know how these stories end. Technology designed to protect gets turned into weapons. Systems meant to help get used to control. The surveillance was being used on political dissidents. The predictive algorithms were profiling people based on race and religion. And the encryption I'd built to protect state secrets? They were using it to hide evidence of war crimes. Her voice is steady, but I can feel the tremor in her hands. So you ran, I say. So I fought back. I built a virus that would corrupt every system I'd ever worked on. I gathered evidence of every illegal operation, every constitutional violation, every innocent person whose life they destroyed with my technology. And then I disappeared with all of it. That's why they want you dead. Not just dead. Discredited. They need to make sure that if any of the evidence surfaces, no one will believe it came from a reliable source. She pulls back to look at me. They need to make sure I look like a traitor instead of a whistleblower. The weight of what she's telling me settles on my chest like a stone. This isn't just about eliminating a rogue asset. This is about silencing someone who could bring down the entire organization. The same organization that made me who I am. How many people know the truth? I ask. Just me. And now you. The implication is clear. By telling me this, she's put herself completely at my mercy. If I complete my mission now, her secrets die with her. If I don't, why are you trusting me with this? She reaches up to touch my face, her thumb tracing the line of my cheekbone. Because I've been alone for 6 years. Because I'm tired of carrying this by myself. And because when you look at me, I see something I haven't seen in a very long time. What? Someone who might choose me over their orders. My earpiece has been silent for hours, but I can imagine the handlers back at base, waiting for my check-in. Waiting for confirmation that the mission is proceeding as planned. In 12 hours, I'm supposed to report that Lila is ready for termination. In 18 hours, she's supposed to be dead. Instead, she's curled against me on her couch, trusting me with secrets that could get us both killed. They're going to send someone else if I don't complete the mission, I tell her. I know. Someone who won't hesitate. Someone who won't care about getting to know you first. I know that too. She's so calm about it, so resigned to the inevitability of her own death. It makes me want to shake her, to make her understand that this doesn't have to be how the story ends. We could run, I hear myself saying. Both of us. I could fake your death, file a mission complete report. By the time they figure out what really happened, we could be anywhere. And then what? Spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders? Never staying in one place long enough to build anything real? It's better than the alternative. She's quiet for a long moment, and I think she's going to say no. That she'd rather die with dignity than live as a fugitive. Instead, she says, there's a third option. What? We take them down. All of them. The agency, the corrupt officials, everyone who's been using people like us as disposable tools. Her eyes are bright with something dangerous. I have the evidence. You have the access. Together, we could expose everything. It's suicide. Even if we manage to get the information out, even if people believe it, the retaliation would be swift and final. The agency doesn't forgive traitors. But looking at her face, seeing the hope there mixed with determination, I realize that maybe some things are worth dying for. It would have to be perfect, I say slowly. One shot, no mistakes. If we fail, If we fail, we'll fail together. She kisses me again, and this time it tastes like revolution. I don't sleep that night. While Lila rests against my chest, I stare at the ceiling and plan. Not the assassination I was sent here to carry out, but its opposite. A way to save her, to save us both, to maybe save everyone else who might be sitting in some handler's office right now, being given orders to destroy someone they haven't met yet. At dawn, I slip out of her arms and use her secure line to call my handler. Raven, comes the familiar voice. Status report. Target acquired and assessed, I say, falling back into the cold professionalism that's kept me alive this long. She's more paranoid than the files indicated, but I've gained access to the compound. Elimination can proceed as scheduled. Good. Any complications? You could say that. Nothing I can't handle. Excellent. You know what to do. The line goes dead. In 6 hours, I'm supposed to call again with confirmation that Lila is dead. In 8 hours, a cleanup crew will arrive to remove all evidence that she ever existed. Unless I stop it first. I find Lila in her kitchen, making breakfast with movements that are too precise, too careful. She's nervous, I realize. Despite all her brave talk last night, she knows what I was trained to do. What every instinct should be telling me to do. Sleep well? She asks without looking up from the stove. No. Me neither. She plates eggs and toast, sets them on the counter between us. Having second thoughts? About which part? All of it. Any of it. She finally meets my eyes. I wouldn't blame you if you walked away. If you decided this was too complicated, too dangerous, too impossible. I could. The thought is there, tempting in its simplicity. I could complete my mission, collect my payment, move on to the next assignment. Pretend that these 2 weeks never happened, that I never met a woman who looked at me like I was worth saving. But I can't unknow what I know now. Can't unfeel what I feel. I made my choice the moment you kissed me, I tell her. Relief floods her face, followed quickly by something that looks like fear. Then we need to move fast. My security systems picked up unusual activity overnight, satellite repositioning, encrypted communications, vehicle movements. They're accelerating the timeline. How long do we have? Maybe hours. Maybe less. She leads me to her command center, the circular room where I first saw the true extent of her capabilities. The screens are alive with data streams, security feeds, intercepted communications. It's like watching the nervous system of some vast digital organism. This is everything, she says, hands flying over the controls. Every classified operation, every illegal surveillance program, every innocent person they've destroyed to protect their secrets. 6 years of evidence, all encrypted and distributed across secure servers worldwide. Why haven't you released it already? Because I needed the right distribution network. The right people to receive it simultaneously, before they could suppress it. She pauses, turns to face me. I needed someone with access to their internal communications, their agent networks, their media contacts. Me. You. The elegant simplicity of it takes my breath away. She's been waiting, not for rescue, but for the right partner. Someone who could help her turn whispered secrets into shouted truths. It's not just about bringing down the agency, she continues. It's about making sure this can never happen again. That no one else has to choose between following orders and following their conscience. She pulls up a final screen, this one showing a simple red button surrounded by lines of code. One press, and everything goes public. Every news outlet, every government watchdog, every social media platform simultaneously. Too big to suppress, too widespread to contain. And then we run. And then we disappear. I stare at the button, thinking about all the people whose lives will change when that information goes public. Agents like me, who've been told that the ends justify the means. Officials who've convinced themselves that a little corruption is acceptable if it serves the greater good. And the countless innocent people who've been caught in the crossfire. "Are you ready?" she asks quietly. I think about my handler, waiting for confirmation of Lila's death. I think about the cleanup crew, already en route to erase all evidence of her existence. I think about the next agent who'll be given orders to kill someone they haven't met yet, someone whose only crime was having a conscience. And I think about Lila, brilliant and brave and beautiful, who spent 6 years carrying the weight of terrible knowledge alone. Together? I ask. She takes my hand, guides it to hover over the button. Together. We press it at the same time. If this part moved you, imagine what's still to come. Subscribe now, and don't miss a beat of the story. The world explodes. Not literally, though the way information cascades across screens makes it feel like digital wildfire is consuming everything in its path. News alerts, social media posts, government communications, all lighting up simultaneously as terabytes of classified data flood into public view. Jesus, I breathe, watching feeds from major news networks as anchors scramble to process what they're seeing. It's really happening. Lila's fingers fly across her keyboards, monitoring the spread, ensuring the information reaches every intended destination before anyone can stop it. Her screens show a map of the world dotted with green lights, each one a successful data drop, another copy of the evidence now beyond the agency's reach. 93% distributed, she reports. 97, 99, 100%. It's done. The silence that follows is deafening. No going back now. No pretending this was all just a complicated seduction mission. In boardrooms and situation rooms around the world, very powerful people are realizing that their secrets are secrets no more. My phone buzzes. Text from my handler, mission compromised. Extract immediately. Do not engage target. Too late for that, I think, deleting the message without responding. How long before they trace this back to us? I ask. They already have. Lila's voice is grim as she pulls up surveillance feeds from around her compound. Black SUVs, 3 blocks out and closing. Helicopters circling to the south. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore. I move to the window, part the curtains just enough to see. She's right, the professional discretion is gone, replaced by the urgency of damage control. They need us dead, and they need it now, before we can do any more damage. Back exit? Compromised. They've had hours to position teams. She's still typing, fingers dancing across keys even as our world crumbles around us. But I have something better. What? A way out they don't know exists. She leads me through a hidden door behind one of her server racks, down a staircase I never knew existed. The basement is smaller than the rooms above, but no less impressive, walls lined with equipment that hums with barely contained power. Private tunnel system, she explains, moving to what looks like a service elevator. Connects to the old subway infrastructure. I had it installed when I first went into hiding, in case something like this ever happened. The elevator descends further than I expected, depositing us in a tunnel that stretches into darkness in both directions. Emergency lighting flickers on as we step out, illuminating concrete walls that look like they've been here for decades. "This way," Lila says, taking my hand and leading me toward what I hope is freedom. We move quickly through the tunnel, our footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind us, I can hear distant sounds, shouts, breaking glass, the systematic destruction of the sanctuary she built. They're tearing her compound apart, looking for evidence to suppress, for us to eliminate. "I'm sorry," I say as we reach a junction where multiple tunnels converge. "For what?" "For bringing this down on you. If I hadn't come, if you hadn't come, I'd still be alone with secrets that could die with me. If you hadn't chosen me over your orders, none of this would be possible." She stops, turns to face me in the dim emergency lighting. "Don't apologize for being the first person in 6 years to see me as something worth saving." There's no time for the kiss I want to give her, no space for the words I want to say. Above us, I can hear vehicles moving, voices coordinating. The hunt is on. "Which way?" I ask instead. "East leads to the old industrial district. Lots of abandoned buildings, places to lay low." She pauses, checking something on a tablet she's pulled from her jacket. "West goes to the financial center. More crowded, easier to blend in, but also more surveillance." "Your call." "East." I know people there, people who have reasons to distrust the government. They'll help us disappear, at least temporarily. We take the eastern tunnel, moving faster now as the sounds of pursuit grow more organized above. I can hear helicopters, multiple engines, the coordinated movement of a full tactical team. They're not taking any chances this time. The tunnel slopes upward, eventually terminating in what looks like a maintenance room beneath an old factory. Lila produces a keycard from somewhere, swipes it across a hidden reader. The door opens with a soft hiss, revealing a staircase that leads up into darkness. "Friends of yours?" I ask as we climb. "People who believe the same things I do. That information wants to be free. That governments work for people, not the other way around." She pauses at the top of the stairs, listening. "That sometimes you have to break the law to serve justice." The door at the top opens onto the factory floor, vast space filled with old machinery, shafts of dusty sunlight filtering through high windows. But it's not abandoned. I can see evidence of recent activity: computers on fold-out tables, sleeping bags in clean alcoves, the organized clutter of people who've learned to live light and move fast. "Lila?" A voice calls from the shadows. Male, cautious but relieved. "It's me, James. I need extraction. Both of us." A man emerges from behind a bank of servers, tall, thin, with the kind of beard that suggests he spends more time thinking about code than personal grooming. His eyes flick between Lila and me, clearly trying to process the situation. "The whole net's going crazy," he says. "Government communications, agency files, classified operations. Someone just dumped the biggest intelligence leak in history." "That was us," Lila says simply. James stares at her, then at me, then back at her. "Holy shit. You actually did it. And now they want us dead. Can you get us out of the city?" "Already working on it." He gestures to the computers around us. "Richard's got a transport waiting at the port. Sarah's handling false identities. But we need to move fast, they're locking down everything." As if summoned by his words, my phone buzzes with an emergency alert: terrorist attack in progress. Shelter in place. Avoid all transportation hubs. They're spinning it, I realize, showing the alert to Lila. Making us look like the threat. Of course they are. Can't admit their own corruption, so they paint us as traitors. Her jaw is tight with anger, but her voice stays steady. How long, James? Transport leaves in 2 hours. But you'll need to get to the port without being recognized, and every camera in the city is going to be looking for your faces. Leave that to me, says a new voice. We turn to see a woman emerging from another section of the factory, short, compact, with silver hair and the kind of practical clothing that suggests she's ready for anything. This must be Sarah. Disguises? Lila asks. Better. Decoys. Sarah grins. We've got 6 people who could pass for each of you from a distance. They're already moving through the city, drawing attention away from your real route. By the time anyone realizes they're following the wrong targets, you'll be long gone. It's elegant, efficient, and exactly the kind of plan that might actually work. But there's one problem. Where are we going? I ask. Even if we get out of the city, out of the country, they're not going to stop looking for us. The agency has resources everywhere. Maybe, Lila says. But they also have a lot of other problems now. Every operation we just exposed, every illegal activity that's about to come to light, they'll be too busy putting out fires to mount an effective manhunt. And there are places in the world where their reach isn't as long, James adds. Countries that don't have extradition treaties, communities that know how to keep people hidden. So we disappear, I say. Start over somewhere new. Together, Lila confirms, taking my hand. Together. The word carries weight, promise, the shape of a future I never dared to imagine. 2 hours later, we're in the back of a shipping container that smells like engine oil and hope. The port was chaos, emergency vehicles, military checkpoints, helicopters circling overhead like mechanical vultures. But Richard, whoever he is, knows his business. The truck that brought us here looked like 1,000 others, and the container we're hidden in is buried deep in a stack bound for international waters. Cargo shipped to Montenegro, Lila explains as the container sways with the motion of being loaded. From there, overland to a place that doesn't officially exist on any maps. Sounds romantic. She laughs, and the sound fills the cramped space with warmth. It's a research station in the mountains. Off-grid, self-sufficient, populated entirely by people who have reasons to avoid government attention. Scientists, activists, journalists, refugees from the information wars. People like us. People exactly like us. The container lurches as the ship begins to move, and I feel something I haven't experienced in years, the possibility of a future that isn't defined by violence. Where I wake up each morning not because I have a mission to complete, but because I have a life worth living. What do we do when we get there? I ask. Whatever we want. Lila shifts closer to me in the darkness, her warmth at anchor in the uncertainty. I was thinking maybe I'd go back to building things that actually help people. Clean water systems, communication networks for remote areas, medical technology for places that need it most. That sounds boring? Perfect, I finish. What about me? I don't exactly have marketable skills outside of what I used to do. Are you kidding? She finds my hand in the darkness, traces patterns on my palm. You speak 6 languages. You can read people like open books. You think 3 moves ahead of everyone else in the room. You could teach, consult, help people protect themselves from the kinds of threats we used to pose. Turn gamekeeper instead of poacher? Something like that. The ship's engines thrum beneath us, carrying us away from everything we've ever known towards something entirely uncertain. But uncertainty, I'm learning, isn't the same thing as fear. Not when you're facing it with someone who chooses you every day. Lila? MMM? When this is over, when we're somewhere safe, I want to tell you everything. All of it. The missions, the people I've hurt, the things I've done that I can never undo. She's quiet for so long that I wonder if I've said too much, asked for too much forgiveness before I've even confessed what needs forgiving. And I want to hear it, she says finally. Not because I need to judge you, but because I want to know all of you. The parts you're proud of and the parts you wish you could change. The woman you were and the woman you're becoming. What if some of it is unforgivable? Then we'll figure out how to live with that too. The simplicity of it, the complete acceptance, breaks something open in my chest. I've spent so many years carrying the weight of my choices alone, convinced that if anyone truly knew me, they'd see something irredeemably broken. But Lila looks at me, has always looked at me, like I'm someone worth saving, worth loving, worth building a future with. I love you, I say into the darkness, the words slipping out before I can second-guess them. I know, she whispers back, and I can hear the smile in her voice. I've been waiting for you to figure that out. How long have you known? Since the first night on the balcony, when you forgot to be someone else for just a moment. When you looked at me like I was something precious instead of something to be acquired. The container rocks gently with the motion of the waves, and somewhere above us, stars are appearing in a sky we can't see. But down here in the dark, holding the woman I was sent to destroy, I can feel the future spreading out before us like an uncharted ocean. What do you think happens next? I ask. With the information we released, I mean. With the agency, the government, all of it. Chaos, probably. Investigations, resignations, trials. Some people will go to prison. Some will disappear. The whole system will have to change, or at least pretend to change long enough for people to forget. And the agents still out there? People like Casey and Marius and all the others? Some will keep following orders because it's all they know. But some will see what we did and realize they have choices too. That they don't have to be weapons for people who see them as expendable. Think we'll ever know which ones choose what? Maybe. The research station has good internet access. We'll be able to watch the fallout unfold, see what grows from the seeds we planted. And if they come after us? If the agency survives this and decides we're still worth hunting? She shifts in the darkness, and I feel her lips brush against my forehead. Then we'll face that together too. But I don't think they will. They're going to be too busy trying to survive the next few years to waste resources on personal vendettas. Besides, she adds with a note of something dangerous in her voice, we still have insurance. Dead Man switches in a dozen countries, set to release even more classified information if anything happens to us. Sometimes the best defense is making sure your enemies know that killing you will cost them more than leaving you alive. I laugh despite everything. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Too late. You're stuck with me now. Promise? Promise. The hours pass in a haze of whispered plans and quiet confessions. She tells me about the research station, about the people who found refuge there and the work they do. Scientists developing sustainable technologies. Journalists investigating stories too dangerous to pursue in their home countries. Activists organizing resistance movements in places where dissent is a death sentence. It's not paradise, she warns. The winters are brutal, the internet is spotty, and everyone has to contribute to the community's survival. No passengers, no prima donnas. Sounds like exactly what I need. Hard work and people who understand what it means to start over? That. And you. Mostly you. The ship rocks more gently now as we move into deeper waters, leaving the coast, and our old lives, behind. In a few days, we'll dock in Montenegro. From there, it's overland transport through countries I've never visited, toward a future I never imagined. Scared? Lila asks, reading something in my silence. Terrified, I admit. I've never tried to be normal before. What if I don't know how? Normal is overrated. We'll figure out our own version. What if the agency finds us anyway? What if... Hey. Her voice cuts through my spiraling anxiety. Remember what you told me that first night? About not feeling safe in 4 years? Yeah. I meant it when I said I hadn't felt safe in 6. But right here, right now, running away in a shipping container with international fugitive status and half the world's intelligence agencies probably looking for us? She finds my hand again, squeezes tight. I feel safer than I have since I was 19 years old. Because we're together? Because we chose each other. Because for the first time in my life, someone knows exactly who I am and wants me anyway. The truth of it settles over me like a warm blanket. Whatever comes next, whether we make it to the research station, whether we build the life we're imagining, whether we have years together or just months, we chose this. We chose each other. And that choice, that simple decision to put love before orders, trust before duty, has already changed everything. Lila? MMM? When we get where we're going, the first thing I want to do is learn your real name. She laughs, soft and surprised. What makes you think Lila isn't real? Because you were in deep cover for 3 years before you went rogue. Because the woman I've fallen in love with is too careful to use her birth name on any official documents. Because I want to know what your mother called you when you were little, before you learned to be afraid. She's quiet for a long moment, and I wonder if I pushed too far, asked for too much intimacy too soon. Elena, she whispers finally. My name was Elena. Was? Is. Will be again, when we're safe enough for me to stop being Lila. Elena, I repeat, tasting the syllables. It suits you better. And you? What name do you want me to call you when there's no one left to fool? I think about it, trying to remember who I was before the agency found me, before I learned to kill and lie and disappear. The girl in foster care who dreamed of belonging somewhere, of being wanted for who she was instead of what she could do. Alex, I say eventually. I was Alex, before. Alex and Elena, she murmurs. I like the sound of that. Me too. The ship carries us through the night toward an uncertain dawn, but for the first time in years, uncertainty feels like possibility instead of threat. We've burned our bridges, exposed our secrets, thrown away everything we used to be. And somehow, in the space between who we were and who we might become, we found each other. The container rocks gently with the motion of the waves, and Elena, not Lila, Elena, curls closer against my side. Her breathing evens out as she drifts towards sleep, trusting me to keep watch in the darkness. I think about the rifle I left in my hotel room, the mission I'll never complete, the handler who's probably discovering right about now that his most reliable asset has gone rogue. I think about all the official reports that will be filed, the manhunts that will be organized, the way my photograph will appear on wanted lists in a dozen countries. And I think about the woman sleeping in my arms, brilliant and brave and beautiful, who looked at a trained killer and saw someone worth saving. In a few hours, the sun will rise over international waters. In a few days, we'll dock in Montenegro and begin the next phase of our escape. In a few weeks, if we're lucky and careful and the universe decides to be kind, we'll reach the research station in the mountains and start building something new. But right now, in this moment, we're exactly where we need to be. Together. Free. Alive. And that's enough. That's everything. The ship carries us toward whatever comes next, and I close my eyes and let it take us there. If this touched your heart, let it live on. Subscribe, it lets us know that there are people out there who enjoy our stories and helps us keep the drive to keep telling stories that resonates with and touches the hearts of listeners.